to HINES Memorial CMU Church's first conference on mental health. And today we are calling it a conversation about anxiety and depression. And we can't tell you how blessed we are with our health ministry to offer this to you. Today you have been invited to have a seat at the table. Today you have been invited to take the Band-Aid off. Today you have been invited to be part of the conversation that we hope will continue beyond this morning's workshop, as we know that mental health and anything that falls generally under that area is an issue for our community. So before I go any further, allow me to introduce formally our pastor and First Lady, Pastor R.L. Spraggan, Dr. Spraggan, and Mrs. Phyllis Spraggan, our pastor and First Lady. So let's give them a hand. And thank you, Pastor, always supportive of anything that we want to bring to the church and our community. So we're so thankful. Our host and hostess today, Rhea and Reginald James, brother and sister, raise your hands. Anything that you need, just ease over or just raise your hand. They'll be observant and they will assist. And of course, our adult hostess is Dr. Cheryl Venable in the back, and she's going to take care of something else for us at the end. So with that, our facilities, I think most of you have been here before, right in the back, ladies straight ahead, men on the side, and we have some water, and if you need a little water, we'll bring some out too to make it available to you. Thank you again for coming, and I won't hold you any longer than to introduce to you our speaker for today. Our speaker I first met at a teen summit, and she did an outstanding job talking to teenagers about the same topics that she will discuss with us today. Our speaker has 13 years of experience in mental health. She is a professional counselor, licensed professional counselor, and national certified counselor. She is really into her work. She has children. She can identify. She's worked with children not only in our community, but other communities as well. And we were sharing some thoughts and whatnot before she will get up before you. And we're just so delighted to have her. And it's always a pleasure when we can be more informed. So without further ado, our speaker, behavior specialist, NASHIYA HODGE. We welcome you, and you may have the floor at this time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you all. So, as she spoke, Ms. Shirley stated, I have 13 years of experience in the mental health field. Started out as a case manager at Aspire, working with intense adults with like schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression, and then I worked my way up to being a therapist, and mostly working with children ages 5 to 18, and then some adults as far as therapy goes as well. So I know a little bit about different disorders and things like that. So one thing that I noticed, especially in the Black community, is major depression and anxiety. Anxiety and depression has increased a lot since COVID. A lot of the kids were out of school during COVID, and they had to stay in their rooms, stay in the house. So when it was time to go back to school, many of them developed a lot of anxiety. Adults as well, because some people were out of work. So do any of you have any idea what major depression is? Anyone want to take a stab at it? Nobody? Okay. So major depression is, and I want to do the actual DSM definition of it. So major depression is defined by the DSM-5 as feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt, the diminished ability to think or concentrate or make decisions, and the recurrent thoughts of death or suicidal ideation without specific plan or suicide attempt. And these symptoms have to be present for a 2-week period to be diagnosed with depression. So you can't.
I'm sorry. What is DSM?
It's a diagnostic manual for disorders, mental health disorders. I'm sorry, y'all. So yeah, it's a diagnostic manual for disorders, for the mental health disorders. And so yeah, in order to be diagnosed with major depression, you have to have these symptoms present for 2 weeks. It can't be like one day you're depressed, the next day you're not. It has to be consistent for 2 weeks to be considered depressed. Okay. According to the National Library of Medicine, major depression disorders is amongst the prevalent disorders in the U.S. that often goes underdiagnosed and And those that are untreated are heaviest in amongst the African American community. Can any of you tell me why that's so in the African American community?
Because it's a stigma that's attached to it. And so people know that something is wrong, but they don't like to identify it. You know, they say, oh, they're having a bad day, or they just don't feel good. But it's just that stigma that's attached to it. Right?
Correct. A lot of times, with major depression, a lot of, according to statistics, African Americans have the lowest. They have the lowest diagnosis of major depression, but we are also considered the most resilient because we have our religion, we have our churches, we have our, God. So that's why we're considered the most resilient. However, we are underdiagnosed, so we could have more people with major depression, but they wouldn't know it because they don't get treatment. So that's one thing in our community that is a big. Now I've noticed a big change lately where more African Americans are receiving treatment, especially kids, especially younger kids. The newer generation are a little different. They speak their minds, so they're getting more treatment than the older people do. But it's still like even when they come into therapy, the parents will bring them, but they still don't want to say, okay, my child is depressed or my child is having problems. They just kind of say, well, they say they have depression. I don't know. I'm just bringing them because they say they want some help. But they don't really want to be involved with the treatment, which makes it harder to help because everybody needs to be involved in treatment. And so untreated depression can lead to emotional, behavioral, and health problems that affect every area of life. In children and teens, untreated depression may contribute to poor performance, misbehavior in school, anxiety, anger issues, risky behaviors, chronic stomach aches, or other health issues, eating disorders, and substance abuse. So a lot of times, and most of us don't know how to express our feelings. We have a lot of problems with communication. We don't know how to communicate. So imagine as an adult if we have problems with communicating, imagine a child not knowing how to communicate their feelings. So if they don't know how to go to their parent, or if the parent is not receptive to understanding that I have a problem, then you're going to act out. You're going to have anger. You're going to, display different behaviors that are not appropriate. Even adults, sometimes we don't want to be vulnerable and say, I need help. I need somebody to talk to. We'll just say, well, it's just stress right now. I'll figure it out. But we don't realize that a lot of our mental health goes with our physical health. We go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you have high blood pressure. You got to take this medicine or else you're going to die. We're going to grab that medicine and we're going to take that medicine. But when it comes to mental health, it's like, oh, I'm not taking medicine for depression. I'm not taking medicine for anxiety. Why not? All of it goes together. If I can't function mentally, physically, I'm not going to be able to function. Just like if I can't function physically, mentally, I'm not going to be able to function. So they all go together. So it's very important to know what's best for you with your mental health. And it's very important to know what works for you and not be in denial about it. Okay? So suicide. Suicide is one of the, nobody likes to talk about suicide. When I first started with mental health, I used to hate to ask the question, are you suicidal? Because if they said yes, then I had to do all these steps, and it was scary to worry about that type of stuff. One of the myths about suicide is that if you ask a person if they're suicidal, you're making them think about it, or it's in their head. And in reality, most people want you to ask them about suicide because they really don't want to die. They just want to know that somebody cares enough to ask them if they're suicidal. So you're not going to put it in their head if you ask them, hey, are you suicidal, or are you thinking about hurting yourself? They want you to ask that question. So suicide is the most devastating complication of depression. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. and the second leading cause of death in ages 15 to 34, according to the APA reports. More than 40,000 people die by suicide, and 1 million people attempt suicide every year. Men are nearly 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women. Do any of you guys know why men are more likely to commit suicide?
Because they kind of internalize all of their issues.
He's like, no. He's like,
Yeah.
Yep, they internalize. And actually, men are more likely to die by gun wound. Women are more likely to commit suicide through taking a lot of medications or cutting, things like that. So yes, men are more likely to commit suicide than women. So, any questions about that information so far that I've given? So I want to draw you guys' attention to the symptoms of depression. So there are a lot of different symptoms of depression. One is pain for no reason, decreased motor activity. So a lot of times when people are depressed, they don't want to do their normal activities. They don't want to move around like they normally would. Some of them sleep a lot. Some of them eat a lot or don't eat at all. Some people with depression may have insomnia, so they may have a difficult time sleeping. Some of them develop a lot of anger, frustration, irritability. A lot of them we talk about suicidal thoughts, worthlessness, helplessness, hopelessness. They don't feel like anybody understands what they're going through. They may feel like nobody cares. I'm better off without being here. Everybody will be happier if I'm not here. So those are some of the thoughts and symptoms of depression that a lot of people experience. Some people feel, I've heard it explained as like being in a dark hole and can't climb out of the hole. It's like the further the hole gets, the more I can't come out of it. They even experience physical pain, so body aches. I've heard one lady tell me that she couldn't even bring herself to do her everyday chores like brush her teeth, comb her hair, cook dinner for her children, clean up her house, go to work every day. It's a struggle to do those things. Some people actually stop working because of depression and go under disabilities, that it can get that serious. A lot of the treatments for depression is one-on-one therapy. So if somebody's depressed, it's good for them to get one-on-one therapy or family therapy, because like I say, I think everybody in the family should be involved on helping each other. So if your family member wants to go to therapy with you, they can get a better, learn a better way to help you at home with your depression. Medications, of course, is another way. I always tell my clients that it's nothing wrong with taking medication. You can put the medication with the therapy. Doesn't mean that you have to take medications forever. You can come off the medications. Once you learn how to cope with your depression, once you learn how to work through your depression, you can wean yourself off medication. You don't have to stay on it forever. Some people that are very clinically depressed have to seek more intensive treatment, and they have treatment programs, like inpatient programs for those people, and they're getting all those same treatments, the individual therapy, the group therapy, family therapy, and medications, but they're getting it around the clock. So they may be housed in an inpatient facility for 3 months to a year, depending on the severity of their depression. Group therapy is another one, because with group therapy, you're getting therapy with people who have very similar symptoms like you, and you're kind of feeding off each other in that therapy, and you're helping each other, like, this works for me, maybe try it, and then the therapist in that group therapy is going to kind of just mediate that session. But with group therapy, you're kind of running your own sessions. The therapist is just there to kind of mediate everything. Any questions about that? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking when you mentioned suicide, especially, that social media has what kind of influence has social media had on especially young people and suicide?
It is social media, and I think that's why so many younger kids are depressed nowadays and anxious, is because we didn't have social media growing up. So I never met, my friends were never, well, I can't say they were depressed, but they never expressed being depressed if they were. But social media does play a big role. I have a lot of kids that are being cyberbullied. A lot of kids feel like, oh, well, I saw this person post that they have this why I can't have that, but then they get depressed. Like some parents buy their kids nice cars, and then you have the kids who don't have the money to get a car, so now they're jealous or they're depressed because this person got a nice car and that person, they can't. So yeah, social media does play a big role in our kids being depressed and anxious. I tell parents, if you feel like your child is not capable of handling social media, do not let them have a social media page. These kids are 8, 7, 6 with social media pages. I'm like, that's too young to be on. So they don't understand that social media is a facade. People are on there, they do whoever they want to be on there. And so then you're getting depressed over something that may not even be real. These people are putting what they want you to see on there, and now your child is suicidal or depressed over something that's not even real. So yeah, a lot of them are on social media. Any more questions about depression? Okay, so we're gonna move on to anxiety. So anybody knows the definition of anxiety?
Worry.
Oh. that's the big part of it. Yep, worrying. Worrying. Anybody else? What? Anybody else? No? Okay. So he's right. And according to the DSM-5, the definition of a generalized anxiety disorder is excessive worry occurring more than not for at least 6 months. So with depression, it's 2 weeks, but with anxiety, it has to be at least 6 months of constant and excessive worrying. And it's about a number of events, like different things. Now that's generalized anxiety, so it's different things. It can be not having money, it can be not having enough food in your house, it can be your children. So it's different activities and different situations that you're worrying about. And it causes distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of function. So you have a difficult time at work, you have a difficult time at home, you have a difficult time falling asleep. And there are different forms of anxiety, so that's generalized anxiety, but we also have social anxiety. Anybody know what social anxiety is? It's pretty much self-explanatory.
Don't want to be around people.
Don't want to be around people, have a difficult time interacting with people, communicating with people. You may feel like people are talking about you when you come around, they're staring at you, they dislike you. You have a difficult time answering questions or even starting a conversation with people. You'd rather be you're most comfortable by yourself. So that's social anxiety. You have people who have phobias. I have a phobia of snakes. I am terrified of snakes. I will not ever get over that phobia. But some people are afraid of heights. Some people are afraid of spiders. Some people are afraid of going outside. It's called agoraphobia. So phobias are just you're afraid of certain things. One way to help with phobias is exposure therapy. And that's when you expose yourself to whatever it is that you're fearful of, and it'll help you be more, it helps you to be less afraid of it. I'm not exposing myself to a snake ever, so, I mean, I'll look at them, but I'm not touching one, I'm not holding one, so I would never get over that. But some people do get over their fears. I had a lady who was afraid to ride over bridges, and I challenged her to ride over a bridge one day, and she did. And she made it to the other side of the bridge, and she realized it wasn't going to collapse. And she said, I did it. I said, okay, now do it again. And she did it multiple times to the point where she started back driving, and she was okay with doing it. So some people will get over their fear of phobias, but some people won't. Another one is panic attacks. Anybody know what a panic attack is?
I've seen it in action. I can't explain what it is.
Okay. Panic attacks are when you pretty much send yourself into overdrive with your anxiety. So it's kind of like you're overworked in that moment, and then you have difficulty breathing. It's kind of like if you've seen an asthma attack. It's very similar. Some people describe it as a heart attack. They think they're having a heart attack because your heart is beating at a very fast rate. You have chest pains. You can't breathe. I've had one before I knew what it was. I didn't know that it was a panic attack. I thought I was dying. So you do feel like you're dying, but most of the time people have panic attacks when they're kind of when their sensories are overworked in a setting that they're fearful in. Like if the social anxiety, they're around a lot of people, they feel like they're closed in, they may go into panic mode and experience a panic attack.
This happened in the grocery store. I had taken a neighbor of mine to the grocery store. She had a stroke at the same time.
it's very, a lot of people don't realize how serious panic attacks are. Some people go to the hospital because they think they're dying, and it's anxiety. So anxiety is very serious. A lot of people don't even know they have anxiety. So anxiety disorders are understudied, they're underdiagnosed, and they're undertreated in African American communities. Once again, it's us again. African Americans experience significantly lower rates of most anxiety disorders, with disadvantaged individuals experiencing even lower rates of psychopathology than those of higher socioeconomic status. So what that means is that when you have the poor communities, they're less likely to be diagnosed or treated for anxiety versus those who are in like a higher status, because they may have the insurance, they can afford to go to the doctor, they can afford the medications. So they're going to be less likely to suffer from anxiety than those who can't afford the treatment or who don't have the insurance to go to the doctor. And so, like he said, worrying, people worry a lot about a lot of things. We all worry. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody in this room has worried about something. So excessive worrying, overthinking is one big one for anxiety. Like I know I did it one time before. Me and my friend used to go to the gym in the morning time to do, we had a trainer, and we would go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so she always beat me to the gym. And this particular morning, I got there before she did, and I'm like texting her and calling her. She's not answering. I'm like, somebody done broke in her house and killed her. And I'm like, nigga, she dead. And I'm like, and she called back, she's like, girl, I overslept. I done killed you off, girl. I thought somebody came in and killed you. And so I do that a lot. I do that a lot. Where I go to the worst case scenario in situations, like if I'm used to somebody answering their phone, they don't answer, in my mind something will happen to them. So overthinking, that happens a lot, especially in social settings, especially in like when you are like, you can't pay a bill, you may say, oh, they're going to turn my lights off, I don't have the money. So we overthink things. And like I tell people, anxiety is a good thing when you have the right amount of anxiety. For instance, like if you're walking down the street and it's nighttime, and you say, I want to take a shortcut down this alley, but you look down and you see a group of men, your anxiety going to tell you, nah, don't go down the alley because it could be dangerous, right? That's good anxiety. Bad anxiety is when you're at Walmart and you're just shopping and everybody's minding their own business and you just automatically get scared of somebody coming in there shooting up Walmart. It's likely for that to happen, especially nowadays, but you don't see any signs of that happening, but now you're fearful of it and you want to leave. That's when you're overthinking things. So people with anxiety, they overthink. They have stomach issues too. Sometimes you may get, your heart rate may go up a lot when you're anxious. You may sweat, I get sweaty palms. You may sweat a lot. They have a hard time with sleep because they're up, still worrying. Their mind is on overload. They can't stop thinking about whatever it is they're thinking about. What else? Let me check my paper. Headaches, tension, loss of appetite. Some people have a hard time eating when they're anxious. What I want to talk about? Oh, what if? It's always what if. They never focus on what it is. It's a what if. What if I go to the store and somebody shoot it up? What if I go to this party and nobody likes me? What if I stand up in front of the crowd and I fall? It's always a what if in their mind. So the what ifs keeps them from doing things that they want to do. My auntie has very bad anxiety. She does not travel, and the few times she has traveled, she did not have a good time. She went way to Orlando just to sit in the hotel room the whole time because it's always what if. What if this happens? What if that happens? So they have a lot of what ifs. And the treatments for anxiety is pretty much the same as depression. Medications, therapy, group therapy, individual therapy, family therapy. And also, a lot of things, like meditation. People meditate with anxiety, guided imagery. Sometimes I focus in on like something calming. Maybe listen to some calming music, that helps. I have a go-to spot in my head where I'm on a deserted island by myself and I'm enjoying myself. That's my go-to spot in my head. and it helps me relax. So everybody has their own way of doing things. That's me. You know, I got children, so sometimes I block them out. They're not there with me on my island. So that's what I do, but it's different techniques that you can use. Like I said, guided imagery. They have some calm apps on your phone. They're free. Some people listen to those. And it helps them to kind of relax. I tell people all the time, if you're going, we're busy. Everybody's busy. So you go from work to home, to taking care of the kids, to cooking. You don't have time to transition from work to home. So you're always on go. If you can find like 15 minutes out of your day, maybe even if it's before bed, especially for those who have anxiety, I say do it before bed so that you can sleep well. You know, find some time to just relax and shut down and calm down so that you can get all those the day's worries out and you can, you know, have a good night's rest. Anybody have any questions about that?
I would have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
As you were speaking about what you do, and this is real. I wake up too early, but I don't want to get up. So, in the last month or so, I start reviewing the 10 Commandments. Can I say them? And I did that, and then that wasn't enough. So I started counting how many scriptures that I could recall, and that has calmed me down. When I can think to do it, it's amazing how I know that helps me, but I can't, if I'm deeply in thought about something early in the morning that I don't want to think about. Sometimes I just think about it and then it makes me very anxious.
Yeah. And we all do that, so we know what works. Sometimes you just don't want to do what works. And I'm glad you brought up like the 10 Commandments and the scriptures and stuff, because I wanted to go there with you guys too. So, of course, I'm a mental health professional, and of course, in sessions, I'm working through different techniques, clinical techniques that we have to use in therapy to help with depression and anxiety. Of course, I promote medications, because I don't see anything wrong with taking medications. But I'm also a spiritual being. I love God. I know that God is the answer for everything. For me, He is. He's the answer for everything to me. So we all know that depression, anxiety, all these mental disorders, all these things that we experience, cancer, all those things did not come into the world until sin entered the world. So God is not on fear. God is not on depression. He does not dwell in that. So if we are having these feelings, which we all do, those are straight from the enemy. And it's to keep us bound. It's to keep us to not find our purpose. It's to keep us to not do what God wants us to do. Like this right here, you cannot pay me to speak in front of people. I do not like it. I do not want to. When God first put me, I'm like, Lord, why? You know, the first time I did it, I was like praying that the event was going to get canceled. I was like, I'm going to do it. Like, please let them call me and tell me you're not going to have it. And then I did it, and it's like, I got over that first one, and He was like, I was like, okay, God, I got over that first one, okay, I'm good. Then somebody else called, I'm like, Lord, I don't want to do it, you know. So He's been getting me up here, getting over my fear. The more I do it, the less I'll fear it. And so I know that, you know, every time I get ready to come out, they come on, Holy Spirit, let's go. You know, I bring Him with me. And so we know that these things are not of God. So I wrote down a couple of scriptures, and I actually didn't even write down all the ones that I found. It's a lot of them, but just a few. So John 16:33 says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So anytime we may experience anything, you know, some days I'm overthinking, and I'm like, Lord, I need you to take this anxiety with me right now. My situation does not change, but the way I feel in that moment, it changes instantly. I feel better. It's just like I don't even have a problem no more. So we definitely have to go to the Creator. And you'll find too, not everybody, but a lot of the people that I work with, they don't believe in God. I don't ask them that question. They just tell me. And a part of me is like, it's probably why you're going through what you're going through. But of course I can't say that in my therapy session. So I have to keep it to myself. Now I do have some people that come in and they want spiritual counseling. I love that. I'm always ready for that. But most of those that come, they don't see me for long because they do what they're supposed to do. They pray, they do their devotions, whatever, and they're good to go. So God is always the way for me. 1 Peter 5:7, casting all of your anxieties on Him because He cares for you. I mean, that's it. whatever your worries are, whatever you're going through, whatever it is that you're experiencing, just give it to God. And He will work, He will help you work through it. You don't have to do nothing, just give it to Him. We're good to go. Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And we all know that, like He's everywhere. He's omnipresent, so we don't have to worry about ever fearing things, even when we do. Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And then Psalms 9:9. The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. So those are just a few Bible scriptures that I pulled up to kind of help with those of you who have anxiety and depression. I also suggest one-on-one therapy, and I honestly suggest one-on-one therapy with somebody who's a believer like you, because there are a lot of therapists out there who are mental health therapists. They are pretty good, but some of you don't know what they do when they go home. So I would suggest pray about it. Let God lead you to a right therapist if you need to see a therapist. Let God lead you to the doctor that you need to see, because He's going to take care of you in that way. We're going to people that they go home and practice witchcraft, that don't mix. So I suggest praying about it if you need to see a therapist. I definitely am for therapy. I'm definitely for medications. I'm definitely for all of it. So just let God lead you to the right person. I've put some resources over there. I have a list of different facilities that does different treatments. Some of those people are trained in like trauma. So if some of you have trauma and need a trauma-focused therapist, there's somebody on there who does that. I put online therapists on there because some people don't want to travel or they don't want to go to a facility. So they have people that do online therapy. If you have children that need therapy, they have adolescent therapists on there that works with, some of them are play therapists. So if you have kids that have trauma, some play therapists are good for kids with trauma. EMDR is like a trauma-focused therapy. It helps you with trauma. So it's a lot of different resources on that paper, so you guys can take one if you need one. And I also have some information on depression and anxiety as well. And then also do your research as well. Like, if you are not sure that you have depression or anxiety, or if you're not sure if one of your family members have it, do some further research and get the right help, get the help that you need so that you can live a more fulfilled life. So do you guys have any questions for me? Any concerns? Yes, sir.
I want to go first to what you just said, which is do some more research if you think you see this, either in yourself or in somebody else. What do you mean by research?
Just looking up, there are different websites that, like, I know, what's the website called? NAMI, they have a lot of information on mental disorders. APA, they have a lot of information on, that's the, a lot of information on mental disorders. You can even Google, like, if you say just DSM-5 diagnosis for depression, it's going to pull up all the criteria. So whatever you need to meet that diagnosis, it's going to pull it up. It has everything. So you can just type in like DSM-5 diagnosis for depression, and it's going to show you all the steps that you need in order to be diagnosed. Some people be diagnosing themselves now, so don't diagnose yourself coming to the therapist. Well, I know I got, because people do that, and I'm like, come on, like,
I checked off the list.
that's not right, And I don't, when they do that, I'm like, okay, well, why are you coming in here? Then you already know what's but it'll tell you your symptoms. I've had people that tell me that, like they think they have this, and this, and then I would like print off something for them, and they'll read, and they say, that sounds just like me. And so then we'll go further with the therapy, and then find out they do have that disorder. So you can Google up that type of stuff. Just make sure, like, WebMD, go to DSM-5 for an APA, things like that, because those are more accurate.
And when you say APA?
That's
American Psychological
Association. He asked me, I'm like, I know it.
Devil's advocate.
No, it's American, and I say APA because it'll pull up, because ain't nobody gonna remember the name. If you type in APA, it's gonna pull up. But American Psychological Association, they have a lot of information on their websites.
And
Would someone have to be referred to you through a doctor? How do you?
No, ma'am. So I work at PHOEBE. Or you can, some people do get referred, but you can just call up to the behavioral health. It's, and I think I have the information on that referral sheet. I think it's number 3 on there. But it's PHOEBE behavioral health. You just call and tell them how I want to schedule a therapy appointment. Sometimes they make you see the doctor there first, and then the doctor kind of assess you. And if you want medication, you can get that. But some people say I just want the therapy, and they'll refer to therapy.
But
And
it's
then,
not free, is it?
no, no ma'am, you have to have insurance, but I think PHOEBE does, like sliding scale depending on, your insurance situation, but, Aspire has like a sliding scale, what's the other one? Albany Primary, they do sliding scale over there as well, they do based on your income, and they have, Albany Primary has psychologists too, so if you need somebody to get like a psychological done, like a mental health evaluation done, they do those too over there. So you can get that done there, and they have therapists over there, and they have doctors over there that gives you medication. So they have a mixture of all of it over there at Albany Primary, and they do slide scale.
And for young people, for instance, in school, how do, if they don't, if they go to the principal or counselor in that school, are they the one who would go through this process with them, or would they be referred to someone else?
Normally, from what I've experienced with the schools, if a child comes to the counselor with the issue, the counselor will talk to them. If they feel like it's out of their league, they'll tell the parent to refer them to a therapist. A lot of kids get referred to therapists because they'll go and say, I want to kill myself, and the schools will automatically say they have to see a healthcare professional before they come back to school. And that's how a lot of them get in. But the teachers will tell the parents, the teachers are not going to call to get an appointment. They'll tell the parents that, hey, they need to see a therapist, and then the parents will call and get them set up with a therapist. But some of the school counselors just talk, they meet with the kids and talk to them, and I guess they're okay. But if they need further assistance, like something that's out of their pay grade, they'll refer them to a mental health counselor. Some schools have therapists inside the school. There are some programs that house mental health counselors in the school, and they'll refer them to those counselors if they have those in their school. So it just depends on the school. Any more questions? Yes, sir?
you touched on it some throughout your presentation, and I want to thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. What is the difference between and the relationship between pastoral counseling or spiritual counseling as you defined it or described it? Pastoral counseling, psychotherapy, and psychiatry.
Okay. Psychiatry is medications. So if you see a psychiatrist, you're only getting medications. They don't do therapy. They don't do anything but prescribe medications, and they'll refer you to a therapist. A psychologist, they were once LPCs. They can do therapy, but most of them don't. They are more so the ones who do the diagnosing, or they sign off on the diagnosis. We can diagnose too, but our diagnosis have to get signed off by a doctor. So the psychologist would be that person to sign off on that diagnosis, and if they feel like that's not what the client has, they'll change the diagnosis and sign off on it. Mental health counseling, of course, we're dealing with clinical diagnosis. We're dealing with clinical coping strategies. Pastoral, I'm not a pastoral counselor, but I would think that pastoral counselor, spiritual counselor is more so dealing with just everyday life, helping you with your spiritual life, helping you enhance your spiritual life, helping you get closer to God. And with us, we technically can't talk about God in our sessions unless our client brings it up. I can't promote God in therapy because everybody don't believe in the same God. And so in ethics-wise, I can't do that. Now, if my client comes in and say, okay, I want to talk about God, then I can, if they open that door, I can walk in. And most of the time I do. but if they don't, then I have to focus on what they're there for. So we can't, ethics-wise, we can't do it unless the client opens the door for us. So with pastoral counsel is more so like you can go there because, I don't know if pastoral counsel or spiritual counsel are bound to any type of laws when it comes to that type of stuff. I don't know. But yeah, so that's the difference. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay. Any more? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make a comment. It just sounds like separating church from state, and I think that's a big part of it.
It is.
And, sometimes it's getting ahead, or you're a member of HINES minority or whatever. Or, you having friends that go to church.
And we can't ask that, like when you're doing the assessment, that's one of the questions on the assessment, like do you have a religious group that you affiliate with? Do you have like a church that you attend? So you can ask that question as far as the assessment goes, but it's just for, knowing purposes. But if it comes to like, hey, you need to talk to God, we can't do that unless they want to. Because I've had a couple of people come in, they're atheists, they don't believe in God at all. I had a conversation with one of them in there. He's a teenager boy, and he, we had a conversation about it, and he was like, all of them have the same thought when it comes to that. It don't make sense, but if he bring it up, like I say, when they open that door, I walk in. Now other people may not walk in the door, I walk in the door. But yeah, you can't ask if they have affiliation with the church or anything like that. And I know my coworker, she's had a couple of people that come in and want pastoral counseling. She refers them. She said, I'm not spiritual, so, I think, you can look at this person and that person, and they make it help you better. So she refers them out.
And the other comment I want to make is even now when you go to the emergency room, fill out the paperwork, they'll say, what is your religious preference? Catholic, Methodist, Jew, Gentile, whatever. But that's the thing that comes up, and I think that that's readily accessible if, depending on the route that you're taking when you're in the emergency. But I've noticed recently, and I've been a few times, and it just sort of popped out, and like I've not always seen, this part. And I think it's a strong part to see.
It is.
In case you needed that. Yes. That they would, refer you to a Baptist person and you clearly saying, I'm a Baptist.
I see your hand. And what's funny to me is that, they'll say you can't talk about God, but they have chaplains in the church, in the hospital. And the chaplains come and pray for you.
Right.
And we know they're praying to the Most High God. So it's, it's crazy to me that they'll say you can't do this and do that, but then they're like, even when you have speakers at the high school graduation, they're pastors and they're praying to God. But you can't talk about God in school, so that's weird to me. So.
I was just gonna say, if you look on your phone, you can find Christian counselors. There are Christian counselors with the same education, and they got Christian education too. So you can't get that off your phone.
You can. And even
Here in Albany.
and life coaches too. A lot of life coaches, they do help with like life events, but some of them are spiritual counselors as well. They have like certification in spiritual counseling. They have certification in life coaching, so it's different certification that you can have. So yep, you can find them there, and a lot of them, it's more prominent now. Like a lot of people are getting more into spiritual counseling. Because mental health is growing, and more people are waking up. More people are wanting to know about God. More people are wanting to be close to God. So, it's a growing thing.
And I think the other thing is that people just won't help. Back in the day or years ago, it was a secret and we just didn't talk about it. But people have seen the results of what counseling will do for a child or adult or anybody. And so when you reach those borders, you say, I need some help. And the help I need is not at the doctor's office. This is something different that I'm dealing with. And even seeing children today, it's just so amazing. And I think a lot of it has to do with the technology. good for you, then, when you go the next day, you get one time and you see what it's like, but I'll bring my own snacks, I put my
Yeah.
snacks in my purse or something.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you define what a life coach is? I don't know if it's a crossover to a religious coach. I don't know what it is.
Okay, so a life coach, you can be a certified life coach. You can get a certification in that. So life coach is just pretty much what it is, like somebody who, let me see if I can separate. So mental health counselor deal with people who have mental health disorders. If I'm having like a hard time figuring out where I want to go in life as far as like my career, or if I want to figure out, if I have a hard time figuring out what I want to do with my life, I would talk to a life coach. They pretty much just help you, they kind of guide you and steer you in the right direction to how to get to where you want to be in life. And a lot of them, they may be certified in spiritual counseling as well. Some of them are. But yeah, and even with that, like if you're having a difficult time knowing, where you are with God, or knowing where you are with whatever God you serve, I don't know, then they may help you get on the right track with that as well. So that's pretty much what it is, like just helping you get on track with your life and where you want to be in life, where you're trying to go in life. So they have a lot of, with life coaching does not take insurance. So most people who do life coaching, they pay out of pocket. And they don't pay by the session, they pay. So I went to a life coach's website just to kind of see how it's set up, and most of them are set up the same way. They may say 6 sessions for $1,500. So when you pay that $1,500, you're going to get 6 sessions. And at that 6, when you're done, unless you pay for another 6 or another 3, So it's kind of like a package. Like you're going to pay out of pocket and you're going to pay right then. They're not going to take payments. So you have to pay for it right then. And so a lot of people, and I think it helps people to see that you're really serious about it too, because you paid the money. I mean, I wouldn't pay $1,500 and I'm not going to do the work. So, but they don't take insurance. Did it answer your question? Are you still confused about it?
I'm confused, but that's okay. That's okay, because, I mean, okay, let
You
me
can- go ahead.
follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Do they, when the life coach, do they put you on a path, give you resources to reach that goal, or they just tell you some stuff and you go and do it on your own?
Both. It depends on the life coach. They may give you some resources to help you along the way. They may give you homework, like, okay, do this before you come back to see me again, and let's see how it goes. Like, let's say you say, I'm having a hard time finding a job, but you haven't put any applications in. So that's why you can't find a job. So then your life coach may say, well, I need you to have 3 applications filled out before you see me again. And it's pretty much like it sounds crazy, because you don't have a job, but you're paying $1,500 for somebody to tell you what you know you should be doing anyway. Hey, if you want to give me your money, just tell you what you already know, then I'm cool with that. That's how I look at it. But that's pretty much what they do. Like, so whatever it is that you're trying to reach, it's pretty much an accountability person. That's pretty, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
They're just holding you accountable for the things that you need to be doing and just don't want to do on your own. That's pretty much what it is. And you paying for it. That's it. Anyway, yes, ma'am.
I would like to say something. When I was 17 years old, I had just graduated from high school. I had had a history of heart trouble. So that summer, I got sick. So my mom, they put me in the hospital. Then they said it was more of a mental thing, like depression than at that time the heart problem. But back in I graduated in '67. So they would wire you up to all these wires. There was that beat, and put all these wires on you, and it was to make you forget everything about what you were thinking about. And to me, that was not good, because I had lifelong effects from that. I had to go to Warm Springs, Georgia. I have been dealing with depression all my life, severe depression, but I worked through it. Most people say, you're the happiest depressed person I've ever seen in my life, because I'm very spiritual, and that comes
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot, so it's about it. People think that it's easy, that you can get out of it real fast, man. It doesn't work like that.
Oh, it
It's a
does.
process. It's a long process.
It is. And I tell people, even as therapists, don't come here thinking I'm perfect, because I'm not. I have to go home and deal with my own stuff. And the reason why I can deal with my stuff, I can come in and help you because I have to go home and deal with my own stuff. You know, a couple of years ago, I was dealing with, I don't have a relationship with my real dad, and I thought I just didn't care, but God highlighted to me that you need to forgive him. And I was like, I don't need to forgive him. I'm not doing that. And God was like, okay, but I have things that I want you to do, and I have things for you. You can't get to those things till you forgive. And I didn't want to do that. And because, then I thought forgiveness looked like talking to him and being his friend. I'm like, I don't want to talk to him. But it wasn't that. It was just that I need to let go of the hurt that he caused me. And so one day I was in my on my phone, and I was on Instagram. And back a couple years ago, I used to watch Pastor Mike Todd for sermons. I don't watch him anymore. But anyway, back then I was watching his sermons, but he had posted a sermon that he did, a clip of a sermon. I said, oh, that sounds like it looks good. Let me go see what he's talking about. So I'm scrolling through his app, and I'm like, Lord, help me find a sermon. And he had a sermon titled Forgiveness. And the Lord was like, forgiveness, and I scrolled right past it. And I was like, okay, give me another one. And he was like, forgiveness, and I kept ignoring it, and I finally said, okay, I'm going to look at forgiveness. And when I clicked on it, it had 13 sermons in it. And I watched the first one, and I watched the second one, and I watched the third one, and they were good, but I was like, I still don't feel like I need to forgive nobody yet. But I hit number 7, and at the end of number 7, he said, if you got problems with your daddy, you got daddy issues, come back next week because I got some for you. And I said, what? And I think it took me like 3 weeks to watch that number 8 sermon. And number 8 is New Beginnings. I watched it, and when I watched that sermon, it's like he was in my house, like everything that was going on with me, he knew it. And I went in my closet, because I had set my closet up as a prayer closet, and I started forgiving my daddy. I was praying, and it's like as I'm forgiving my daddy, everybody else who had wronged me that I had forgot about, their names start coming up in my mind, and everything that they had did to me start coming up, and I just started forgiving all of them. And when I got done, I was probably there like an hour, and when I got done forgiving, I felt so much better. But do you know that a week later, I'm sitting in my therapy, in my office, and I had a few kids that came, I'm not the whole week, a few kids, some of them had mama issues, some of them had that, Miss NASHIYA, how do you forgive somebody when you don't want to? Had I not did what God told me to do, I would have been still like, I don't know, God, because I still ain't forgave my daddy yet. But because I had went through that process, like I was obedient, I went through that process, I was able to help them go through their process of forgiving. So a lot of times we go through, I tell people this, everything that we go through is not for you. I used to always have that victim, why I gotta go through this? Why me? Why me? Why me? And Mom used to always say, why not you? And I used to get so mad with her. I'm like, I don't want you to respond right now, But now that I'm older, I'm like, she's right. Why not me? Why not me? I didn't choose this profession. I told, I forgot your name, I'm sorry. I told her this morning, I wanted to be a lawyer. I went to school for political science, and it was boring. I hate politics, and I was like, oh, if I gotta do this right here. And I changed my major to psychology, and I was done with, when I got my bachelor's, I was gonna be done with school. I was not going back to school, but I couldn't find a job. And I can't even tell you why I chose, well, I know God did it now, because therapy. And I ended up here. So, we have to do what we have to be obedient to God. Sometimes we go through things because we have to help other people get through it, not because He just trying to punish us or He want us to suffer. You're the stronger vessel.
That's very true. I'll share a story with you all. We were living in Shreveport, Louisiana at the time, and our son was a Marine. He had decided he didn't want to go to college. He had joined the Marine Corps with a buddy out of high school, and he was killed June 25th of 2002 in a car accident on base. And So I started having some gastro problems, and I was referred to this doctor way outside of Shreveport in Bossier City, and I was like, why did they refer me all the way to this doctor way out here on Bird Coons, which I didn't even hardly know how to get there. And when I went to him, he was like, okay, well, have you ever had up a GI? Lord, we're going to do that, and here's a movie to watch that. And then he said, I had my son's doggy chains on, and so he said, how are you doing otherwise and stuff? And so he says, I see you wearing dog. I said, well, I lost my son. And so come to find out, he said he had lost his daughter and that he was still dealing with the death of his daughter. And his daughter had been dead maybe for 4 or 5 years. And so he said, I have a counselor that I want to refer you to. And so he said, he has been great for me. So I told Noel, I said, well, the doctor referred us to this counselor. So we go to the counselor's office, my daughter, my husband, and I, and he tells us that he's a son of a United Methodist preacher, so he understood being a PK. The other thing he understood was that he had lost a son. One of his 13-year-old twins had committed suicide. And he said, I was a Sunday school teacher all before that and everything. He said, and then I became mad with God and didn't understand why you would allow my child to do this and why I had to lose this child. He said, and so then it was all so that he could be, the hospital called him. He said, I began to drink. I stopped teaching Sunday school. He said, but later the hospital called me and said, we want you to be the counselor for the parents who are losing children who are terminally ill. He said, and so Phyllis, you see, I had to go through that to understand that pain, of a parent losing a child and all. And he was an excellent counselor, helped us tremendously, with the grief counseling because of Hugh's death, and all. But yeah, that's, as you said, God has his own divine way of
He does.
leading you into what he wants you to do for a reason.
And we don't understand it sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes, most of the time, we don't want to do it.
Right.
But once you do it, you understand it better. So, and that's where I'm at. Like, nobody wants to work with kids. Nobody. And everywhere I go, it's like, oh, you're going to be working with kids. I'm like, why me? Again? And I'm like, why you keep choosing me for these kids, Lord? Like, but I work with them, and I've been doing that for years. Like, like I said, I work with adults too, but mostly kids. Mostly kids. And I surrendered. I said, okay, I guess I'm going to have to keep on doing it. Because I tried to get out of it several times. I was like, well, just let me get out of this. But, because it's hard. And it's not the kids that's the problem. Sometimes the parents don't want to cooperate. And if your child has some type of trauma, where does that trauma come from? It's a family unit thing. You have to work together to get it fixed. And sometimes the parents don't want to do that. They don't want to say that, I have this problem too. So they don't want to do that. And so it's kind of left up to the child to say, I want to be different from my family, or I want to do this differently. But if they're going back into that same environment every day, your work is kind of in vain, depending on what the age group.
My comment on that too is that, the children are our future. And, we here at the church, we just have the kids that we used to have. My daughter, she's grown up now, but we still have to hold on to what we got, one or two. And Mrs. Adams, she was really hard, with calling and, emailing them and texting them and doing them and their parents. So that with cyber stuff, it didn't get lost. It didn't come back to her a wrong address because it was an email. But we just have to, we have to just realize that if we don't work with them, they're the ones that's going to bring us a glass of water when we get into the retirement center or whatever. So we want them to at least be prepared and to know, hey, we nurtured this person. We did what we could. There might have been a lot more that could have been done. But, you're just limited with kids now.
You are limited.
In order to get to the children, you have to have parental support. I mean, you can't just go and get them and say, hey, bring them. I mean, a lot of times they will, a lot of times they don't. So if they can't get there without some kind of help. So you just have to focus on that. That's what we got left. The children are our future.
keep it. I had a lady brought her son to me. He was a teenager, and she said, when I saw your name, I was gonna switch him to somebody else because I think he needs a strong man to work with him. And so she still came to the session, and I always had the parents in there the first time. And when I talked to him, because I do not sugarcoat, and she was like, no, he right where he need to be at. I like you. And I told her, I said, I'm not your average therapist. I said, you looking for textbook, you ain't gonna get that in here. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna let you know the truth. And I do that with all my kids when they come in there. I don't sugarcoat. You know, I have the little ones that, the 5-year-olds and the 6-year-olds, because my coworker said, you see 5-year-olds? I said, yes. And they'll come in there, I have toys. They come in and they go straight to the toy. I said, come back. I said, come back. I say, in here, we don't go straight to the toys. You have to sit down. You have to ask permission. Because they're not being taught. The parents just let them do it. Not in here. Got rules in here. Got to sit there. I said, and when we get through with our session, if you did a good job, then you get to play for a little while. And so they know when they come in there, they have to go to the chair. You can't go to my toy. You can't touch my stuff. And so, you know, they have to have rules in there. And that's just how I run my session. You can't come in here running. I tell them all the time, hey, this is my office right here. You can't come in here running this space right here. This is mine. Because you got some that come in there, they be, oh my, I done seen some rough stuff. I'm talking about cussing their parents out, hitting the walls. It is a lot. And my coworkers had to come over and say, you okay? I said, oh, I'm okay. You don't need to check on me. But it's, you know, they can't, some of them, they just don't have the support. They don't. It's hard. But, you know, I think that a lot of them are getting help, and some of them just don't want it. I mean, you can't make them get it, but they just don't want it. So, any more questions?
Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, we can't thank you enough. And this was just wonderful. Thank you
Yep.
for taking us to this table this week. Thank you for peeling back the layers with our presenter. Thank you for just being engaged. And thank you for being so observant of your own personal experiences that I believe that you all will go and share and tell others what they missed. But the people who are here, other people who were supposed to be here. I'll ask Pastor if he'll have any little remarks, and then I'll make another comment because I have a little something for you. And we'll let you go, but you've given us an hour of a very important week, and we thank you. So in advance, happy Mother's Day to you, bonus moms, biological moms, and all moms who influence, and that's all of us, I think. Pastor, you have some words.
I think I set the camera right for me, so, and I'll keep around the screen at you. Thank you, Sister Shirley, for leading and providing this session on today. For those of you who may not know, Sister Shirley is our coordinator for healthy churches. So we have a healthy church ministry here, and then she's also our coordinator for social justice and human concerns. So we are very thankful for the work that you do in leading and coordinating those two ministries here at HINES Memorial. Sister
Nasha.
NASHIYA. Oh, thank you. I've been wondering. NASHIYA. So, Sister NASHIYA, thank you for your presentation on today. An excellent job.
Thank
and
you.
I know you have a lot more that you could say, and perhaps we'll have you to come back at some other point to say some of those things you didn't say today. But thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your ministry and for sharing out of your own wellspring of life with us and with so many others.
No problem.
Amen.
I enjoyed myself.
All right. All right. I want to also say thank you to Reginald and Rhea for being our host and hostess for today. You always do a good job when you come and participate, and we appreciate you for doing that. We look forward to what else you'll do here, but thank you for your presence and participation and activity on today as well. And finally, I want to say thank you to all of you.
Adult hostess.
Oh, adult hostess. Dr. Cheryl Venable. I don't say doctor very often. Sister Cheryl Venable, our adult hostess. Amen. She does a good job of hosting, and we say thank you for that as well. And to all of you who are present on today, we needed your presence. Your participation and input has been valuable to this discussion, and so thank you for sharing as you have done. And I'm going to sit down, except to say to those of you to whom it applies, Happy Mother's Day. God bless you.
Okay, thank you, Pastor.
Oh, gotta say this. If you don't have church service tomorrow or don't intend to go, I'm inviting you to come here to Hines Memorial at 10:45. We'll be here for about an hour or so, but 10:45 tomorrow, Hines Memorial, over in the main building. We'll be glad to have you.
Thank you. Just have a little gift for you. Donated gifts to me for you, and I hope you can enjoy them. Sister Cheryl will hand them out to you. Get the resources. If you need to have a private word with our presenter, feel free to do that. We don't want to keep her much longer because she's done what she agreed to do, and